Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel, another live interview. Thank you for joining us. And today I'm very happy to be joined with a buddy of mine. It's Paul Shedden from Mission Engineering. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah, good. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for giving up your time to hang out and talk about your company. We've chatted many times at NAM over the years, but we've never actually sat down and chatted face to face. So it's really nice to have a chance to do that right now.
Well, it's nice to do something a bit different with all this time we find ourselves in our hands, so it's all good.
Exactly, but even so, thank you for giving up your time. I appreciate it. Chad,
Pleasure.
Chad Boston's here. Hi, Chad. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Chad, how you doing, mate?
And Patsy Smith, please let us know if everything's working fine. I'm just going to go through the cameras. Here is Paul on the main camera. Here is me on the main camera. And here's both of us. Oh, Jamie Trevino, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Uh,
Try and think of some good questions. I haven't got any questions, specific questions lined up for Paul. If you've got any of their products from Mission or any questions about pedals, the kind of pedals they make in general, or power supplies is a good one, then feel free to ask in the chat and we'll address them later on. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
But let's get started with who who are you? Like you're clearly you're not from America like me, right? Everyone says I'm in England.
Yeah,
I'm not in England. I'm in New York. You're in California, right?
yeah,
Tell us how
yeah.
tell us like where you were born in England and how you then eventually made your way to the States.
Oh man, who am I? That's a question, right? We all ask ourselves. Um, well, do you want me to go where I was born in England, etc.? I was born in London, a place called Park Royal, which now is, let's say, not a place that visitors want to go visit. Lived all my life in North London. North London's what they consider inside now what is known as the M25, which is a big ring road that runs round London, 4 lanes wide. So North London. I did have a stint of a few years in Milton Keynes, where, of course, Marshall's based and what have you, when I was running my record label and music publishing company, and that's a conversation for another day. How did I end up here? Short version, yeah, music. I was kind of writing songs and recording back when we used to have the little tape, regular cassette tapes, and you could get 4 tracks and then bounce things down and bounce them down again and create songs. I started way back then. Was in a band, then got more and more sophisticated recording equipment, got into music, say record label, music publishing company, traveled the world with the BPI. They're the guys that do the Brits every year, the big music award. Um, Represented independent record labels for the Brits, so talked to government about piracy, people stealing music, all that kind of stuff, met with trade unions, went to Japan, Norway, all over the world representing UK music. So I've always had an interest and a passion um, for music. But the way I used to make my money was in the banks. So don't boo with that, but I worked for the banks in the UK, several of them, from the age of 18 through to late 40s, maybe early 40s. And but music's always been a passion. So basically, a friend of mine, James, who's our CEO, and I want to tell a story of how the mission started because I think it's incredible and only in America. He was the one who asked me to come over here and help him run the business. And if I briefly explain how that happened, I think it's an interesting story. So James was playing guitar in a praise and worship band in Austin, Texas. The lead guitarist, JR, was having problems with somebody else's expression pedal. I won't say whose, but it wasn't very good. It was slipping about. It's plastic, nasty. And James, being James, to give you a bit of his background, he was on the team that developed voice recognition. We speak to Siri now, we speak to computers on phones, and he was part of that original team that developed all that technology. So he's a very bright guy, been in Silicon Valley for 30 plus years now. For him, it was no big deal. He just said, hey, I'll build you an expression pedal. Went off a few months later with off-the-shelf parts. Back then, obviously, before Mission was formed. Went to JR, here you go, what do you think? JR loved it, said some really nice things online. Hey, my buddy's just made this expression pedal. I can't believe how well it works. And anyway, some pretty big artists came out of woodwork, like Lincoln Brewster, especially on the praise and worship side of things. And then before he knew it, people were saying, hey, will you build me one? So only in America, right? He was building them in his garage after work or in and around work. and slowly it grew to the point that he could no longer build them in his garage. He had a couple of part-time college students, Steve and Tom, would come and help in the afternoons, and he moved into the first commercial property, which was hilarious because I used to visit James every year for vacation when he moved to America 20 plus years ago. And the first place they ever moved into was, you can only describe it as a shed. I'm not sure if American viewers know what I mean by a shed, but it was corrugated iron sheets. It was made from, including the roof, open to the air insofar as pigeons and things could fly in and would and fly around while the guys are building pedals, etc. And back then we're talking 20 pedals a week was a good week, a big week. And anyway, long story short, 2008, 2009, James said to me, would you come to NAMM? And I went, what the hell's that? Been in sales my entire life pretty much. And he explained what NAMM was. It's so funny now to think that I don't know what NAMM is, considering how huge it is. I said, yeah, of course. So went to NAMM. Back then, Line 6 were appointment only. You couldn't just rock up and go, hey, how you doing? You had to have a reason for being there. We have a term in the UK, which I think is universal, called blagging, where you kind of, you say, you try different approaches, to get what you want. So I basically blagged our way in 3 times, not once, but 3 times. I can't even remember how I did it, meeting 3 different people each time. And long story short, Line 6, the third person I met said, hey, we have a problem with this. We have a ton of support calls over the expression pedal that we have. We'd love to get rid of that. Come talk to us after NAMM. So back in 2009 we did, and that's where the co-branded Line 6 specific pedal that we have came from that first NAMM. I then attended 3 or 4 more with James. Just delegates, no booth, no nothing, just turn up with a badge and just meet people and say hi. And then in 2010, I think it was, 2011, James said to me, would you consider moving to America, which is an easy thing to ask, right? Not easy to do. You've been through this yourself, and help run the business. Well, my wife and I, Amanda, who's our COO, didn't hesitate. We love Petaluma where we live. Only place in America we've been to that we didn't want to go back to the UK after we finished our vacation. So we said, yeah, we'd love to. Went through the hoop jumping, and it really was hoop jumping of getting a visa back then, a 5-year visa. And that's pretty much it. Halfway through that, managed to get a green card. Here I am, still loving and very grateful for being here in this amazing country where, as I say, only in America, right? You come up with an idea, doing the right thing for a friend, you start building things in your garage. I say garage, see, I'm definitely American. I don't say garage any longer. I say garage. And there you go. Next thing you know, it's a company. And here we are. We've moved 2 more times since into bigger and bigger commercial property. We're now in a 6,500 square foot facility, which is not huge by other manufacturers' standards, but it's big by our standards. And we now own a wood shop, what we have done for a couple of years now in Missouri, called Stagecraft Gear. So we can make pretty much any cabinet, any wood. We can imitate all the famous cabinets, etc. out there, put any drives in you want. That's a whole nother subject, really. Does that answer the question?
That more than answers the question. That gave me numerous other questions, because I didn't know, there's stuff here I didn't even know about, like the thing with James working with the AI. That's really interesting. I never heard that story before. I've not really chatted with him that much. He's always so busy and crazy at NAMM.
Yeah, true.
I didn't know you worked with the thing with copyright back in that day. I was teaching music back then in Notting Hill, and right. I was teaching business, and that's just when that was starting to become a real issue and topic of debate. Yeah. Have you got any thoughts on that? Like, looking back about music copyright and Napster and streaming. I mean, obviously now it's a wonderful. Obviously now streaming is a wonderful thing, and we're using it right now. But how do you think, looking back, did we get it right with that stuff, or did we get it wrong, or did we just not know?
I think a simple top line answer is I think we got it wrong. And without spending the entire hour talking about that subject, which I could, I'll give you some anecdotal, some actual evidence of that, I guess, really. So I was on a panel, for example. You had the head of the TUC, which is one of the biggest unions in the UK. You had people representing video production, people representing video game production, obviously me representing independent record labels, music publishers. We had members of the government there. We're trying to sort out this whole issue of the money that was being lost by people just taking it, thinking it wasn't hurting people. And I'll come on to that in a second, because it definitely was. And it took us months and months and months, probably a year, to come up with a bill whereby the ISPs, who really, in my opinion, without getting into political conversations, were kind of responsible. They just wanted people to buy faster and faster and bigger internet packages. And their way of selling that was saying, hey, look at all this free music and videos and stuff you can get if you increase your speed. So that was kind of the battle. We got them to agree to start sending out letters to people that infringed copyright and that were found to be downloading illegally. And the first hang up with that is that the cost of sending those letters was something like £80, and it was down to the labels or the copyright owners to cover the cost of those letters. And by the time we got it passed and through Parliament, the age group that primarily were kind of taking music for free had moved on to smartphones and everything else, and the bill that got passed didn't cover smartphones and everything else.
Wow.
So it was all a complete waste of time.
Oh, man.
And just to explain what I mean by we got it wrong, so I think firstly, streaming and everything else is brilliant. I make use of it myself, so I'm not in any way, shape or form pointing a finger at anyone who does this. But the reality of it is, from a record label point of view, sales started to dry up. If you're one of the big majors and you have big enough artists, you can make your money from live touring and merchandise and what have you. But if you're a smaller independent record label or you're in the business that way, streaming, a lot of people don't know this, pays something like 0.000, maybe even another 0.1p per stream.
Yeah.
So to make any money at all, you've got to have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of streams to make any kind of money, which then has to go to pay for all the people in the music industry that people don't think about. So we even went into schools with the BBC. BBC is a publicly owned TV channel in the UK, for those people tuning in that don't know this. It's funded by license fees, there's no advertising, etc. And we went into schools and we took in a sound engineer, a songwriter, an artist, a radio plugger, the BPI, as I say, the Brits, they do the Brits, and they're the organisation for all the record labels in the UK. We went into multiple schools around the UK explaining to kids all these jobs exist. You know, you don't have to be just an artist to make a living in the music industry. You can be a radio plugger. What's a radio plugger? Well, you literally go into a radio station, we'll do it, and you sit down with, the head of that particular station, and you go, hey, I've got this amazing new artist, here's the song, here's all the information, this is what's going on with them, these are all the gigs they're doing, and you pray that they put you on some kind of a playlist. And you have to pay for those services, and those people obviously have to make a living. Same with sound engineers, right? Same with everyone that makes music possible. It's not just the artists, there's a whole army of people behind them that have made that from an initial idea that the songwriter came up with to something you can now either purchase legally, stream legally, or take for free. But every time you take for free, the overall message, without spending the whole time talking about this, is you're depriving all those various people that are relying on it to make a living. Now, people sit back and they only see the big acts and they see them making millions or driving around in their Ferraris and Porsches. And even those guys, it's not as, what's the word for it? It's not what you'd think. I mean, most record labels give around about 12%, if you're lucky, of the profit from the sales of everything. Then they deduct from it the cost of making the record and videos and everything else. So the artists, even the big ones, probably at some point they renegotiate their contracts, right, when they become that big. But the people that are doing quite well for themselves really aren't earning what you think they're earning until they become massive. So, sorry, that's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but
no,
I think the streaming
I love
service
it.
is going to be great, but no, I don't think we got it right. I think that too much music's been taken out in the wrong part of the music business. The people at the top, the big record labels, are still making lots of money. They just found other ways of doing it. New emerging artists, small and medium-sized labels are struggling just to basically pay the bills, let alone make any real living at it.
You know, hindsight is a wonderful thing. I often say,
Yeah.
you know, I taught music, I taught this kind of stuff to kids in London, and I would tell them, like, get your MySpace together, make videos. But I didn't take my own advice, because now I've been trying to push this YouTube thing the last 2 years, and it's going pretty well. But I wish I started back in 2008 and took my own advice. But again, hindsight is a great thing, isn't it? It's easy to look back and say, we should have done this, we should have done that. But you're right, there's many ways to make money. And even people in the chat now, we've got performers and people that do different things and make money different ways. The streaming thing reminds me of YouTube in a way, because again, you make a video, you put your heart and soul into it, and every one view gets you like a cent or a portion of a cent. But then again, there's other ways to make money on YouTube as well. There's sponsorships and super chat. I just got a super chat. Thank you, Patsy Smith. Things like that. There's different ways. As a musician, the Corey the other day was saying the same thing. You've got to be very versatile. You've got to say yes to everything. And even what you guys are doing, like, so, you know, you guys are making expression pedals, but without those expression pedals, then Jamie, who's in the chat, couldn't do his show. So there's a million jobs, and there's new jobs, right, created by the internet as well, that weren't there back in the day when we used to be freaking out, like, oh, we're not going to sell CDs anymore. But now there's a million new jobs, like social media influencer. Who would have thought that would be a thing? You know, that's a big job. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to find your way through it all and match your skill sets and your passion. I think you have to have a passion for whatever you do, right? Otherwise it comes across that you're just doing it because it's a way of making money. Yeah. If you don't really believe in whatever it's doing, whether you're reviewing gear or whether it's, you know, as you say, instructional videos or whatever ways of making a living. I mean, thank goodness for music, right? The music has always been, I think will always be, an emotional influencer. At times when people are stressed, people turn to music. When people are happy, they turn to music. When people need cheering up, they turn to music. And so, if it wasn't for all the myriad of people finding a way to continue to grow the music industry and find new ways of making it work, it's the whole reason Mission Engineering is still open and still producing. We've actually deemed ourselves as an essential business because we know we're supporting people at home that are making a living from instruments of all kinds. And so until we get told otherwise, we're staying open and we're, doing all the social distancing. I mean, the guys, for example, including me, when I go in back once a week to check the pedals. A little thing, again, people probably don't know about us because we're only a small company. I check every single pedal, pretty much. Occasionally I don't do it, someone else does it before they ship. So we're talking probably 15,000 pedals a year. I personally check, final check before they out the door. To make sure it's working, set up, etc. Now, occasionally things go wrong. It's badly handled in shipping. I miss something. The guy who checked it before misses stuff. But we get a very low response rate. But even when I go in, first thing we do is we pick up one of these heat cameras, take a temperature, record it, ask a series of questions about how you're feeling. You have to answer them. Any signs whatsoever that someone's not quite right, we ask them to go home. We're still paying our staff.
Very good. Awesome.
Everyone's at 10 feet apart minimum. We put extra tables and chairs in the rec room. We staggered lunches so that no one has to sit at the same table, but they can still communicate and talk. Hand sanitizer everywhere. The usual, guidance. So we're doing what we can. We're being sensible. It's tough, but we think that we want to support all those people out there that are trying to make, as you say, from a myriad of new jobs that weren't there previously. We're trying to help and support those people continue to make a living at home by continuing to make products.
Just before we talk, I just want to backtrack a little bit. So do you play an instrument?
Yeah, mainly. So it's so funny. I've been in a number of accidents where I've almost died. I mean, serious accidents like cracking my sternum completely in half. One where I did die. I was on a motorcycle on the M1. For those people who don't know what the M1 is, it's the major motorway, a freeway, I guess you call it in the US, from most of it, covers most of England. Knocked off at high speed, pronounced dead in the hospital, brain activity stopped, heart stopped. I can tell you all kinds of stories about that and things that happened to me meant to be since. But literally, see, I've forgotten where I'm going with this, because my problem with it is I took a blow on the head and it affects my short-term memory complex. What was I saying just before that? I literally have forgotten where I was going with this.
I just said, do you play an instrument?
Yeah. So all those times I took it off, like when I cracked my sternum, I taught myself to play saxophone. Badly, but I play saxophone. Another one, when I was recuperating, I taught myself to play guitar. I was trained to play hammered organ, foot things, two stoppers and everything else as a kid. From the ages of 12 through to about 18, I had lessons from a very accomplished instructor. Colin, his name, passed away many years ago, sadly drowned in the bath of all things in his late 40s, because he used to pass out something he had. Hit me quite hard as a teenager when he passed away. Keyboard, if I had to say one, is the one that I can play efficiently. The others I can get a tune out.
We actually have a lot in common, because I started playing the keyboard and I moved here in 2010, and I also used to make songs with those Tascam 4-track recorders, and that was a great time. One thing that's happened to me recently is I've been forced to get away from the gear and more into the music, which has been a good thing for me and others too. I know others are doing that too. I've had some people helping me like record songs online, and I remember back in those days there was no real gear scene, which would have been good or bad for companies, I'm sure, but it was just a 4-track recorder, and I would just sit and use that and just make songs all day long. And I'm kind of now doing that, but with Logic and the Helix and stuff. But those things, like I keep saying, there's good and bad and everything, right? But those things had their place. They were really cool. Sometimes it's nice to be forced just on the music, Right, I think we need some comedy intervention here. This has been pretty.
One more thing before that,
okay.
Because you asked the question. I would just say that I have said before now, but not everyone listening may know this. What I like about our company, it's not entirely by design, but we do try to do this. Everyone on the design team, so like Janusz, James, Darius, etc., the build team, all guitarists. So when we design a product, we try to think about the problems maybe features that are missing from other things on the market that we would want to see improved, we'd like to use ourselves. And then with that in mind, then the whole creative process starts. Well, how do we solve that problem?
Oh yeah, I knew James played. I guess it'd be hard to make pedals if you didn't play guitar. Although I don't, maybe you don't have to, as long as you have customers that feed back with honest feedback and ideas. Who knows?
But what's nice is people that work for us genuinely love what they do. They care about what they make because they are guitarists and they know it's going to go to another guitarist. And that might sound soppy or whatever the word I'm looking for is, but it's true. If you came visited, and you're very welcome if you're ever over this side of the country to come visit, I'll spend as much time as you like with any member of our staff, and they will tell you how passionate they are about doing a good job of building the best they can.
It's always nice when the product comes from a problem. So there was a problem, you address it, and then you make that into a business. So I've had some other people like that on the show.
Yeah,
that's a good reason to get started doing something, right? There's a need for something, and you do it in a good way. People like it, and you turn it into a business. That's a great way.
But now the comedy.
Yes, we decided before we went live to have a little comedy intervention from all the talking we'll be doing. So that's a lot of information there. So Paul's going to show us one of his comedy lines up here. Let me put you on the full screen.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the one at the top. Right?
Check out this wall he has in his house. Some people are like slinkies. They serve no purpose, but they still bring a smile to your face when you push them down the stairs. Okay, where did you buy that from? Let's give another one. Since light travels faster than sound, some people appear bright until you hear them speak. Let's do one more for Alec Bourne. I'm sure he's going to kick out of these. I just read an article on the dangers of drinking. Scared the crap shit out of me, so that's it. After today, no more reading. Okay, all right, let's get back to talking again. I'm sure Alec enjoyed that.
Yeah, in California, it's,
where do you buy those? Are they from England?
No, they're all pretty much all from California. So California, because I suppose it's nice weather and stuff like that, is very big on fairs. They call them fairs. I don't really call them anywhere else in the country. People bring along stuff they make, everything from food through to signs, through to wall art through to buying jacuzzis.
Like a craft fair, right? Craft fair.
Yeah, craft fair kind of thing. Yeah, and we quite, I wouldn't say we go to them every year, but since we've been here, I say since 2012, we've been to quite a few, and we'll just come across one that makes us laugh out loud, and if it makes us laugh out loud, we'll buy it, and we'll literally, we can't resist buying it. I mean, there's we'll do a few more maybe in a minute if you want, but there's some other ones that just absolutely cracked Amanda and I up when we saw it, and we just went, "It's just so funny, we've got to have it."
Well, I tell you what, we'll do some towards the end to give people an incentive to hang around. Thank you, Kelsey, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Let me just go through the chat actually. Okay, David says, "Looks like I need a haircut." Well, I'm doing the Beatles style right now. I'm going to do a Beatles tribute band. Jamie says, Jamie says, "Any new products coming out?"
Yes, but well, do you know what? I'll talk about one of them, but I can't talk about the other.
Oh, you're like line 6 now.
Because Chad has the exclusive on the other, and I don't want to steal his thunder.
Okay.
And I think anyone who owns a model will be excited by it, and that's all I'm going to say to whet people's appetites. But Chad will be the man that will be the first to announce on his channel. Anyway, long story short, I can't talk about that one, but that shouldn't be much longer before we can announce on it. The one I think I'd probably talk about is, which we announced at NAMM, is a new power supply that's no bigger than a AA battery. It powers up to 65 watts and 3 amps, and basically you can power pretty much anything from it. We've also come up with, this is kind of still confidential, but what the hell, you're getting exclusive on this, I guess. We've come up with something that's almost the same size that eliminates noise from the signal chain for those pedals that don't play nicely in a daisy chain. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell the 529M with 2 of the isolation devices. We haven't come up with the names of them yet, that's how new they are, and the required cables. So you'll be able to buy a single USB-C battery or USB wall, however you want to power it, and you'll be able to daisy chain things like a Stomp or an HSFX or whatever that will take a 9-volt, obviously DC negative input, or positive, I guess. You can buy an adapter cable for that, and then you can run up to 3 amps. And if you get any of the pedals in your chain that are in any way noisy, are picking up noise from, say, a digital device or somewhere in there, you put one of these little ISO bricks in. Actually, I can't use the word ISO bricks because I think somebody else has already copyrighted that now. But you put this isolating tiny little device which weighs nothing in the power chain just before that pedal that's causing the issue, up to 500 milliamps, and it will eliminate the problem.
That's cool.
So 2 of those will ship with the 529M, and then we're going to sell the little isolation devices 2 at a time separately. So if you've got some massive big monster of a board full of digital pedals like Strymons and things that are notoriously noisy, but they're only like 350 milliamp kind of each, you get put a little isolation device on any pedal that causes the problem, and now you can run your entire board from a single battery or a single USB source without worrying about noise in the signal chain.
I have to admit, I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I love gear and accessories. Alec runs a MIDI group on Facebook, right? Good friend of mine. He told me about like a wireless MIDI adapter, and that blew my mind. Some accessories can be really exciting for musicians, like the wireless MIDI thing. I didn't know MIDI could self-power and be wireless. So that really was a big moment for me. But I got to be honest with you. In the past, like when I've had to find a power supply for the HX Stomp, or when I've had to find the right expression pedal for my Helix or my Kemper, you know, it's kind of annoying. Like, is there a way? What do I do? Let's say someone's watching that needs to get an expression pedal for a Helix. How do they choose the right one, or a power supply? Have you guys got a way of helping with that? Because this always just confuses me.
Yeah, the expression pedal side of things is a bit more complicated than I'm about to answer. I'll explain that in a minute. But in simple terms, we only do 2 pedals for all Line 6 gear. Line 6, for those people that don't know, are one of the few companies that cleverly worked out how to get software, which is a digital platform, to understand analog information, which in effect an expression pedal is voltage. all expression pedal does is send current and resistance values via the potentiometer back to the device it's controlling. The software has to interpret that change in resistance and the amount of electrical current coming back and map it to MIDI. It has to go, right, well, okay, where am I in the suite, and where does that represent in the MIDI scale? So Line 6 worked out how to do it with just 2 terminals, which is basically what a mono, a TS jack had. It just has the tip, right, and the little black ring which isolates it from the sleeve. And they worked out a way, and it's a black art. I don't know how these guys do it. They're genius at doing it. Anyone who does software understanding analog information, they worked out how to do it with just two connectors, which is what it basically is. It's a circuit. So ideally, there's lots of people reporting that if they plug in a TRS, a tip ring sleeve, for those people watching that don't know the difference, it's divided into 3 parts: a tip, then a central ring, and then the sleeve. You'll see 2 black lines going around it. They're separated. Yes, you will get results, and it will vary. It will vary even by effect, but you are confusing the device you're connecting to, because it's trying to basically recognize ground, which is like almost 0. This is way too complicated.
I know. I'm sorry, but I've switched off. Yeah, no. I've already switched off. Like, yeah, I guess my I'm sorry to cut you off. I guess my question really was, can they just like call you up and say I need, or can they call up a dealer and just say this is what I have and this is what I need? They can
call us, absolutely. If they call a dealer, all our dealers should know what the right pedals are for any Line 6 gear. Line 6 themselves obviously sell our products on their site. Make it very simple. It has the logo, the Line 6 logo on the pedals. Right. But I was just trying to explain that, the advice is, feel free to use any expression pedal. They all will work to some extent. But if you want one that actually gives you a full rotation, correct, mapping to MIDI, true linear sweeps and everything else, that's how ours were developed, working in conjunction with Line 6 to give you something that performs 100% the way it's meant to perform.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be. I appear very rude. I'm just
take these conversations.
I'm just being brutally honest, and just even though I love gear, sometimes that stuff can really just. I don't get it, and it's not something I really understand. So that's why I was hoping that I thought didn't you do something about like a website, like how to power the pedals and stuff, and it kind of does it for you. Did you do that? I thought I saw James post that.
No, I don't think.
Well, you've done videos on it, right? You've done videos.
We've done tons of videos on how to set the pedals up, how to calibrate them if you need to calibrate them, all those things. Yeah, they're actually on, ironically, James's YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/LeBihanJ, LEBIHANJ. And that's where for some reason, we always have and can continue to do it, or the mission video. You can get to it via our website, right, missionengineering.com. But if you want to go straight to YouTube, that's how you get there. But just to come back, feel free to cut me off at any point, because number one, if you're not interested in the subject, there's a good chance people out there aren't interested either, and it's very difficult to know how much detail to go into with a question. So you will never offend me, because quite frankly, I don't know what people want to know and what they don't. So feel free to interrupt at any time.
I could be wrong. This is my opinion. I mean, this is my I'm running it, so I'm just trying to think. I just want to give people information like, okay, so I have a Helix, I want expression pedal. You buy the Mission pedal with the Line 6 logo, right? And the Kemper one is green,
right? Detail that's useful. So we have 2 versions. We have an EP1, has no toe switch in it. That's perfect for regular Helix LT, because they don't have a switch input. Why buy a pedal with a toe switch if you can't physically plug it into something? Unless you want to future-proof it. If you just at some point buy a Helix rack or a Stomp, or those things that have a toe switch in them, then you might want to buy the switch version and just go, right, I don't need it now, I don't have to use it, I can use it in the future.
Yeah.
With the non-toe switch version, you can add a spring. And this is quite popular with people that want to use it for just dedicated for wah and whammy. So a lot of the time when you're performing, remembering to click a switch or something to turn off a wah, which you just would not want to accidentally leave on, is just one extra stress factor you don't need when you're performing live on stage. So most of the devices nowadays, like Kempers, Line 6, Even older devices like the 11 rack, which is still selling in good numbers, have what they call auto engage, which means you can tell it that when it receives 0 voltage back from the expression pedal, which is when it's in the heel position, turn this device off. You can also set it to do things like, if there's inactivity for a period of time, turn it off. If it's in tow position, turn it off. On some devices, Kemper does that. Not sure the Line 6 gear does. But my point is, you can program it so that if it receives a certain lack of current or inactivity, it will turn off. So the spring's brilliant for that, because the moment as a guitarist you step off it, the spring returns the pedal to the heel position, which sends 0 voltage back to the connected device, and it goes, aha, you want me to turn this off. It's no good though for anything else. So we've had, not many, but people in the past buy it thinking it's a great idea and then go, well, I can't use it for volume swells, I can't use it for reverb delays. Well, of course you can't, unless you can stand there perfectly balanced and not move the pedal. It's never going to work. So most people only buy the spring version when they want it for a dedicated type of effect, and then they buy a separate one without the spring for all the things that they want to leave in one position.
Yeah, I like the toe switch. I like the foot switch, which is a volume pedal, and then you press it down and it becomes a toe switch. And then on the Kemper, when you back it off all the way, the tuner engages, which is really handy.
Okay, cool.
So I like that. Actually, I don't have one yet for my Kemper. That's the green one, obviously, right? The green pedal, and it has a toe switch.
Yeah, so that's a TRS wired, without going over that conversation again. And you do need it. Your Dunlop, the EP1L6 won't work with it. Regular, I've seen a lot of Dunlop pedals being used on boards. That's why I said that. I've seen tons of, actually no, Dunlop pedal mics, I think that is TRS wired. You know, the little like the mini that's out there, and there's
I have the big Dunlop, but it's only one thing. It's not one, or I like the one where you can click it down. And you make that one, right? Where you can click it down?
Yeah, we make that one, but there is one that seems to be popular amongst Helix users that are using one that's a volume and a expression pedal. That should work with the Kemper, because it, as certain as I can be, not an expert in everyone else's products, it is TRS wired. But yes, we make one. The important thing is the momentary switch. So Kemper likes a momentary switch. And just to explain the difference between those, which I think is important, a latching switch, which is historically used in most effects pedals, is a bit like a light switch, right? You click it and it creates a permanent circuit. So now there's constant electrical information being sent back to the device it's connected to, and the device says, as long as I receive a current, I'm having this effect to be on.
Yeah, like a light
if
switch.
I don't receive a current, I turn it off. A momentary switch, like the name suggests, is if it receives a blast for just a moment, a blast of electrical information, I do the opposite state. So I get a blast of electricity, I turn on. I get another blast of electricity, I turn off. Or I switch between presets. So a momentary switch is what Kemper requires. So to answer your question, yeah, really for Kemper, you want an EP1KP that has a momentary switch in it.
You see what I mean? I hope it's not just me. I feel like there's a lot of options, a lot of new words for people. I'd say my advice would be to go on one of the Facebook groups and ask yourself or the group, or phone your dealer like Sweetwater, whatever.
Or phone us.
Or phone Mission, and ask them, hey, what do I need? Yeah. What do I need to get? Because there are a lot of options. There are a lot of things to consider. But you're right. It's good to learn about it. It's good to know the difference between the cables. It's good to know the difference between those switches as well.
So just one more thing on that. I mean, from our point of view, I couldn't agree more. We have ridiculous numbers of parts on our shelf because we have to build different pedals using different pots, different wiring, some reverse polarity, some this, some that. We would far more like it that we could just build one pedal, or maybe two, one with the switch, one without, and go, here you go, guys, this works.
Me too, because I've got both. I'd love to have one. I'm going to need to get one for each device, right? It's annoying. Yeah.
So here's a device that we probably wouldn't have got talking about if you hadn't raised this, and not many people know we make it. So I think this is maybe something of interest. Anyone who watches this video either live or after the show, look up Expressionator.
Oh.
And basically what it is, it's a small box. I don't know if people can see the camera, about this. Really, really tight, lightweight. You put a single expression pedal at the input stage. It could be from anyone who makes an expression pedal work. With ours, I'd recommend our EP1 because it's the cheapest expression pedal we make. It then has 3 outputs, which basically will work with almost anything, because it basically, that's the one, thank you. It sends out what it needs, and you'll see it has channel A, B, and C. Yeah. They're all color-coded on the LEDs, so when you select a channel using the stomp switch on the right-hand side, it lights up. It tells you whether it's in forward sweep, reverse sweep, whether it has sawtooth. There's various sweeps and things you can select. With the little black toggle buttons on it, you can select multiple channels at once. You can control output A, B, C, A and B, A and C, A, B, and C, any combination you want. And because of the way it works inside with software, it will talk to pretty much anything. Even line 6 gear, we have a special adapter cable that you need to come out of the expressionator into your line 6 gear. So if you want to buy, but of course it costs more because now you have to buy an expressionator, although it saves you buying 3 expression pedals.
How much is that? How much is that?
About $199, I think it is.
Okay.
So you could buy 1 expression pedal, 1 expressionator, and it's the same as buying 3 expression pedals.
That's cool. I didn't know you made that. When was that released?
Years ago.
But you still sell it?
We still sell it, and we sell reasonable numbers, but nowhere near as many as we should.
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like. I mean, with your show, you can cover so many things. I've got so many SKUs that I need to talk to my dealers about, the public about. It's kind of like, where does your priority lie? And you tend to kind of pick groups and products that are selling big numbers. So obviously, I spend a lot of time on Facebook groups for Line 6 and Kemper, and because they're doing so well, and quite rightly, they make amazing products. And therefore, I want to spend my time where I can reach as many people as possible and help them with things that we make to improve what they already have.
What is your #1 selling product?
It would probably be the Kemper pedal, followed by the Line 6 pedal. Because
the Kemper doesn't have, none of them have an expression, right? So they need your pedal, whereas some, like my Helix Floor has a pedal built in.
Yeah, so I think it's partly that, partly based on, I think, how well the Kemper did with the stage. That seemed to have been doing. Yeah. I have no idea what the numbers are. They don't disclose that, even though we work closely with Kemper. They don't tell that information to anyone. But having seen the increase in numbers of pedals we built for the Kemper, it has to be down to how well the stage. They were doing very, very well with the original toaster and the rack, but I think that stage is, my guess, is more than doubled their sales.
Everyone wanted the stage, including me, and I got one. I love mine, and the thing is, they've now released the Kemper Cab, which is passive, and if you had the powered toaster, it works better with that in a way because it's got the power amp in there. So yeah. I think, this is my opinion, sometimes we want something and they release it. I still think the toaster had its place as well, and it's got other benefits to it. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think, but it's obviously done very well for them, and it is a great product. It's an all-in-one that you can just carry around.
People phone all the time. People do ring Mission Engineering. We always answer the phone, and they ask me, which should I get, the toaster, powered or non-powered? And I have a very honest conversation with them about what people on the forum say, not me, about the powered output from the Kempers in terms of a couple of funky, weird, frequency bands. Yeah, that supposedly are too bright in certain areas, too muddy in others and stuff. We build a passive cab actually that corrects that. That's another whole new subject called the KM212. It's got crossovers and drivers designed specifically to make the powered output from the Kemper sound as good as it possibly can. But anyway, that's not why I'm raising this. People say to me, which one should I buy? Now, I know it's an extra investment, but I always say to them, buy the powered Kemper head.
Yeah, I would say that too.
If you can afford it, purely because now you've got the best of both worlds, right? Yeah. You go to a venue where they've got passive cabs and maybe the front of house isn't so well set up and everything else. You can now use what's there.
I totally agree.
You've got all your options available to you for that extra bit of money.
I've been using, because at NAMM this year, Henning showed me the Synergy combo, and I'm now using the Helix in 4 cable method with the Synergy combo amp. I love the amp in the room thing, and that's why the cab thing. That's why I would get a powered one, because then if you go to a venue, you can plug into a real cab. And that does always sound great live. A real cab does always sound great. So you're right, it gives you more versatility. And that's something that I miss with the stage, because I can't just plug it into anything. I need a power amp as well.
So this is one of these things, right? I mean, when you're a manufacturer, this is just manufacturer's hat on now, and hopefully it doesn't offend anyone. But we constantly have this whole dilemma of how do we keep all the people happy all the time, because people are asking for smaller and smaller and lighter in one sector of the music industry. Those people that are traveling and they don't want to carry around, or they're getting older and they don't want to be carrying big heavy amps and stuff around with them, and I totally get that. And then we have other people who want it all singing, all dancing, so they just pick one thing up and it works. But of course now it's a lot bigger and heavier, because you're trying to get a lot more, not just into the chassis, but you have to allow for room for things like heat exchangers and things that will stop the electronics from overheating and breaking down on you. So now you're making things not bigger just based on the space needed to fit in those extra components, but designed to make sure they don't fail on you when you can least afford them to fail on you when you're playing live on stage. So it's like, if the stage started having amp systems and anything else built in, it would probably have to be at least a third bigger, at least.
Yeah.
It'd probably have to have its own isolated section.
I get that.
And I think for some people, and maybe they'll do it. I mean, Christoph Kemper, very, very clever guy, his whole team for that matter, if they start to see a demand for it, I wouldn't even be surprised if he hasn't even got a version in the works that had that in there.
I think they should make the Kemper cab.
Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, my TV just come back.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, what's that noise? Hey, Jamie, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it, my friend. Hope you're well. And Alec, thank you for hanging out. JJ House of Gems. I was going to say, the Kemper cab, a powered version would interest me, but you guys make powered cabs too, right? You showed me one 2 years ago that has like a bit like the Kemper cab, where it can do both things at once. What's going on with all that stuff right now?
That's another big long conversation. I would just say, I would sum it up in a nutshell by telling you an anecdotal story. So Guitar Center, not once but twice, because the main buyer of Guitar Center changed, did an A/B comparison for every full range flat response cabinet on the market.
Wow.
And they chose our cab to go into their top 12 platinum stores with Kempers, interestingly, because they said there was no comparison. Now, in fairness, that's before the new Line 6 power cabs and stuff come out. I couldn't honestly say how they compare. But what sets ours apart from the 2 years of development by guitarists for guitarists I've mentioned before, is the empower knob. So there's a single knob on the back. If you fully clockwise turn it, it goes extended full range. So that's designed for the acoustic players. And I know you play a lot of acoustic. Quite often, full range speakers don't go quite far enough in terms of getting you an authentic sounding acoustic patch. Ours fully clockwise gives you that extended range, so it sounds more like a real acoustic guitar.
Wow.
All the way the other way, it actually cuts off the tops, cuts off the bottoms, boosts the mids, just like a regular guitar cab. So now you get all those mids that you get out of a more traditional cab. But the thing is, you go anywhere in between.
Yeah.
And the reason that's important to anyone watching this who uses modelers is that you spend a huge amount of time either buying and cost money, or tweaking your own presets to get them sound great at home, in the studio, somewhere quiet probably. Then when you go out playing live, you power the thing up and you go, whoa, what's wrong with my tone? Why does it sound right? So now you've got to start, at least in the global setting, changing EQs and all those other parameters to try and make it sound good. And you're kind of destroying, and you might have to do that patch by patch. With the empower knob, you just move it backwards and forwards until it sounds right. Because human bodies, they soak up tone, right? So the more people in front of you are soaking up more specific frequencies. Rooms reflect things differently. The materials that are in the room, curtains and things, will affect what frequency range is absorbed and what's reflected. So the power knob is, honestly, no one else has it. It's the main feature that I would say to anyone before you make a decision. Check it out. Go into one of the guitar centers that has the Geminis on display. If you need to, check out videos, whatever you have to do, but check it out. Because that for me is a killer feature. Then we have things like you can plug in a USB straight to your door. Any door will recognize it as a sound card. You can record through the Gemini straight into your door. We have a Bluetooth version. That's probably more for people that teach or are learning. You know, you can just pull out your phone, stream some music to it, learn a part, get your student to learn a part. It's fun way of learning or practicing. Or if you're a composer, get a simple drum beat down, a bass line going right. Now you can play along with it and come up with ideas before you then record via the USB into your laptop that might be sat on top of the Gemini. There's things like automatic 110 to 220 voltage recognition, so you don't have to worry about plugging in anywhere in the world. It'll just set itself up. I could bore you with lots. 87-degree angular spread is a really important one. So, you know, most regular cabs are very directional, probably 50%. The only way you get to hear it is to stand in front of it, which means most of your audience, unless they're stood almost directly in front of it, they don't get to hear your full tone. With an 87-degree spread, you can stand to the side of it and it's coming up at your ears, of course. So you get to hear more of your actual sound on stage. More to the point, more of your audience get to hear the real tone on stage.
David just said the Mission cabs are so dear, so pricey. I think you just answered the reason why. It does a lot of stuff, right?
Mean, there are 3 separate boards in there, 4 separate boards. There are two amp boards. There's an individual amp board for each set of drivers. There's an amp board for the USB control. There's an amp board for the Bluetooth. They're made by hand in Missouri. I mentioned those guys earlier on. They are so handmade, not even CNC machines, that when they turn up at our factory, we put all the electronics on in California. Each individual cabinet has its grill marked, so you have to put the right grill on the right cabinet. If you think what people pay for a Mesa, the reason that Mesas are so expensive is they're hand built the same way that we make our cabinets in Missouri. So if you put it into context, you're getting high quality drivers, active crossovers. That's another, now I think about it, a 5th board that's in there to control the crossovers. All those different boards in there. Back the gap-free birch that Mesa used to make their cabs, hand Tolexed. These things are expensive to make.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And that's why they sound as good as they do.
I'm getting, as a YouTuber, I'm getting these questions a lot. You know, Fender Acoustasonic. There was something else the other day. All people ever say to me is, well, it's expensive. And I always try and justify why. I mean, I don't know. That's another thing we could talk about for an hour, like development, production, shipping.
I was about to say, let's not talk about it for an hour, but exactly that. When people look at a price, I would urge you to think of it in broader terms. In manufacturing in particular, I don't want people to get their violins out for us now. We have to buy components up front. We have to pay for those components. We have to wait for a purchase order to come in from a dealer. 98% of our sales are through dealers. We then have to build and fulfill the order. We then have to wait to get paid. We can be carrying a debt of up to 120 days. We're then, as you say, paying for our rent, which is like $10,000 a month, wages, a myriad of things, right? It's not just a simple add up all the costs of the components and go, well, this thing should cost X.
And R&D as well, right?
All the costs of running the business. Yeah, research and development. There's a myriad of things that we have to pay for that people, even little things like people said I'll give you a classic example of when we stopped putting little screws, only because we couldn't get hold of them, in bags with our pedals so that people could mount them to Velcro. People say, well, why have you stopped putting the screws or making the screws available? One, we couldn't get them. Two, to supply those screws, we have to first of all pay someone to source them, order them, inventory them, separate them out from a bag of maybe 1,000 screws at a time into little tiny plastic bags of 4 at a time. And all these people have to be paid all the way along the lines to do that. We have to pay someone else to put it in a box. We have to pay someone else to check that that's actually in the box before it ships. We have to pay who's also going through a checklist and ticking to say, yeah, that was in the box. So what seems like a very inexpensive, 4 screws, how can that possibly be, $3 for me to buy 4 screws when we were selling them, was because it's not just the cost of 4 screws. It's every aspect of the business that gets involved to supply those screws to the end user.
Yeah, my family in England are watching. I just got a super chat for £10. They said, put this towards your next pedal. So thank you very much. I said of course, it'll be a mission. I'm giving you a free plug there. No, you haven't got to tell me. I struggle to, people, I review stuff and they say the price and then people just say it's expensive. But that's, like I said, it's a whole new conversation that we could have just on that topic alone.
One more thing on that subject as well. The other thing that people I would ask to bear with us on is our size.
Yeah.
So when you're a big company, and let's not start talking about who, but you buy components in hundreds of thousands, and you pay a fraction of what we pay as a small company, buying them in maybe 500 to 1,000 at a time, because that's all we can afford to do. So a lot of our products, I would hope, over a period of time as we grow, will become cheaper, because as we can ourselves start to buy things in bigger and bigger quantity in bulk, it means we can get them at far more competitive price points, and now we can bring down the cost of manufacturing, and we can then pass that on to people. But at the moment, based on our size, we really are doing our best to put pricing out there that means we can survive as a business. And I say survive, we made our first profit. Everyone can applaud now. Our first profit.
I'll give you a round of applause. Hang on. There you go.
First profit after 10 years. Up to then, we've always made a small loss, a small profit, but really broken even.
Interesting.
Last year, we actually made a profit for the first time after 10 years.
Congratulations.
I think, thank you so much. It's a huge relief. I think if we were ripping people off with our prices, we would have been making a profit a long time ago. But
that's the kind of information that's good to hear from companies like that. Like, you're a small company, you've got all those overheads, and you've just hit a profit. These are the things we have to remember, right? And the grand scheme of things. And also, you're very approachable. I'm sure if there's any issues, then people could just reach out to you in person.
Absolutely.
That's worth something too, right?
Well, so we, for example, I think we're the only company that does this, and spread the word, because we don't have any issue with this at all. We make a loss on this. We will take a pedal back, for example, out of warranty, and for 25, 30 bucks, near enough every time, we'll fix it. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of work, but it is. We have to get it back. We have to test it, make sure it is faulty and not that wrong cable's been used or something. We then have to disassemble, which takes as much time as assembling a pedal. We have to work out what's wrong with it. We have to replace the part, and that 30 bucks, by the way, includes the part. Put it back together again, have two independent people check it, clean it, stick it in a bag, and ship it back to the customer.
Yeah, that's great.
Outside of warranty.
Yeah, that's great.
So we do care about our customers. But again, that's an overhead. It's all part of what it costs to run the business.
That's great. I've got a question, and you don't have to answer it because it's a bit personal to the business. But I'm interested about your relationship with Line 6 and Kemper and those companies. Like, what can you tell us about that arrangement without giving away too much information?
I think I can talk pretty freely. So the nice thing about what we do at Mission Engineering is we don't really compete with any of those other companies. We augment, we improve their gear. Right, you can get more out of any of those brands you just mentioned with one of our products, like an expression pedal or whatever. So they don't see us as so much competition, but they see us as an ally, really. We actually have non-disclosure agreements, for example, in place with Line 6. So they tell me and us about things that are coming down the pipe before people get to know, so that we can develop products to go along with it. So we actually make their products, we believe, more saleable, because most people who are in the music industry want to be creative, and so if we give people an additional tool to help them be even more creative using a set piece of kit, that's going to be a good thing, not a bad thing. So actually it makes their gear potentially more saleable, because it does a lot more than just what's in the box. They can buy an accessory like a Mission Engineering pedal, not just ours. They can buy expression pedals elsewhere, of course, and they can get even more out of it. So the great thing about that is, we have excellent relationships with pretty much everyone. Strymon, I don't want to miss anyone, but Line 6, Eventide, Kemper, obviously. I'm struggling to think of all the various people. I told you before the show, right? I died in a motorbike accident. I told you during the show. So part of that is a short-term memory problem, and I'm missing some, I'm sure. But we have excellent working relationships with pretty much all the effect manufacturers out there because they see us, RJMs and other ones. This is kind of popping into my head because we're there to support them, not compete with them.
Totally, because those companies don't make those pedals, so you can work together and make the stuff that they don't make. I do have like isn't there like a plastic Line 6 expression pedal? Did they make that at some point?
Yeah, so again, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't think I'm talking out of turn here. So the reason we got into the relationship with Line 6 back in 2009 was because of they were getting far too many support calls based on that pedal because it wasn't working properly. And they went to us, it's not worth the cost of supporting those calls and the effect on our brand, right? Because it's still a Line 6 product versus giving up what margin we would make continuing to push our pedal instead of yours. So we'd rather push yours because we know it works, because we've worked with you to develop it. And we do pay them, by the way, a badge fee in return for the fact that having the Line 6 brand on there, quite rightly, is a valuable commodity. And in return for that, they support us with marketing and support us. It's a two-way symbiotic.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Situation. But they trust us 100% to get things right and to make their product look good. And we would never abuse that trust. We take that very, very seriously. We don't ever put anything out until we've got sign off from them and we know that it's only going to make their gear look even better and even more creative. So we care about all the people we work with because we do see it as an extended part of mission and vice versa.
What I would love, and it'll probably never happen because it might impact sales, but I would love to see like with the Stomp, like a 3-button foot switch where it has LEDs on it as well. Like I have a TC Helicon Voice Live 3 and they have like the Switch 6, but the buttons don't light up. I'd love to see accessories kind of add even more power to them with screens and LEDs and things. I guess then it might then cut into sales of other products. But I'd like to see accessories get more advanced like that. Could that ever happen? Do you think?
Yeah, we can do. So the thing is, without blowing the trumpet of Darius and James and Janusz in particular, who between them have probably got 120 plus years of experience in Silicon Valley, there's nothing they can't build. That really are the most, clever guys. I'm just honoured to be working with them. But the question always is because we're a small company, where do we spend our time and money, quite honestly? What do we develop? What's the true market for it? Yeah. Where's the demand for it? If we build and we spend 6 months to a year developing a 3-button, for example, given your example with LEDs, which really would not be simple to these guys, what could we have been developing and how many of them we ultimately sell? Because we have to justify it with a business hat on how we're going to continue this growth process, touch wood, hopefully continue to make a profit so we can grow our development team, grow the business and develop more products like you're talking about. The bigger we get, more resources we've got, the more we'll be able to go on a whim. Hey, let's just try developing this. That'd be quite cool. Even if we only sell 10, let's just give it a go to see if we can do it. But we're nowhere near that yet. We're not big enough to do that yet. We have got, I wish I could tell you about some of the things that even Chad doesn't know about.
Sorry, Chad.
Really, really exciting things coming down the pipe that where we're really focusing at the moment. And all I can say is for anyone who likes the idea of not having to worry about where they plug their effects pedals in, if they're looping, where that is in the loop, if they want to be able to remove pedals from a loop that were previously put into a loop, this product will solve all those problems.
Actually, I had a problem. I was trying to use HX Effects over the Helix because it's smaller, but it only has 2 loops, and then one of the loops was being used for IR. So that just completely ruined that product for me. I had to go back to Helix because Helix has 4 loops, I think 4 loops.
Right.
So actually a loop, I was looking at loop expanders and there was like one good one that's sold out now. And there are some cool accessory products that can really help people. Definitely. I've got ideas myself, but like you said, they have to be a viable option for the company. They have to be a product, not just for me. I'm hearing that now from all my guests. We have to make money. We have to think of business. We can't just make Aaron Shaw the pedal because he needs it. It's got to be a mass appeal.
One day we might be able to, but not at the moment because we only just made a profit. We can't afford to rest on our laurels. We've got to continue to build that profit until we can be flippant. At one stage, we'd be flippant enough. Flippant, is that the right word? We'd be well enough off and secure in knowing that the sales shouldn't drop to the point we go out of business, that we'd be able to relax a bit and go, yeah, why not? Let's give this a go. And in the process of building it, we might find out things that are cool spin-offs that maybe do have a big market.
It's also cool though that you are a smaller company and you can do something quirky and different because you haven't got to answer to a big corporation.
Yeah,
that's good too. Now you showed me something at NAMM briefly. That's not what Chad's going to be talking about, is it? Is that something else? What you showed me?
Probably.
So I can't talk about that.
No.
Okay, because that appealed to me for the acoustic stuff. So I'd like to hear. You're still developing that, right? That's going to come out.
Yeah, it should be ready within a week or two.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to talk to you again about that for what I do at some point as well. Let me read out some comments here. Harley, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, Harley.
You had a compliment here. I've got to find it. Where's it gone? Oh, Ben Russum. Please tell Paul I love Mission Engineering pedals. I have 2 expression pedals and I use them with all my MIDI capable pedals. Love Mission products. I have 0 issues with their product. Is this a friend of yours?
Yeah, I paid him $50. It was very cheap. I thought $50 is worth it.
I'm just kidding. It's great that you have fans that support you and say that, you know. But I mean, I have to say, you know, Mission Engineering is before we met online. It's a company I always saw anyway. You know, the name was in my head from going around Sweetwater looking at pedals. That was always a company that I knew about. I just love that the internet allows us to know who the company is and put a face to the name and talk to them. You know, it's great.
I'll make a comment on that. So I've been doing this, as I say, now for eight years, been just under 8 years, and it never ever gets old. It never fails to put a smile on my face when someone says something lovely like that, and I can't thank you enough. I always share it with the build team. It always makes them smile because people really do put their hearts and souls into making the gear we put out there. The very fact that we, in effect, check everything 3 times. So the person who builds it gives it their best, but they're human, they're going to make mistakes. An independent person then checks their work and catches probably 80% of any mistakes they've made, which is pretty rare that they do. Then I do that final check, as I said, 15,000 plus pedals a year, and I will pick up, if I check, and this is an exaggeration, 300 pedals, I might find 1 problem.
See,
that's how good the guys
are. That's good.
And I probably miss one every occasion now and again because I'm also human.
Yep.
You know, there's no robots involved here. But yeah, so that means a lot. That means so much. People ring up and tell us that. And it's so rare, right? Because most people, human nature is to complain about things. That's just the way we're wired, and myself included. I have to bite my tongue sometimes when I go to say something. I think, no, I really shouldn't say that. And I don't make enough effort to say thank you and well done to people that do things well. So I just want to sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name again now. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It will never get tired of hearing it. It means a lot to hear that. Because I know it takes a lot for people to take the time to say things like that. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. You know, if something doesn't work, I'll go online and say it doesn't work. You know, but if it does work, then you have to remember to praise that too. That's just the nature of the internet, isn't it? You read a lot of the bad stuff, like on Amazon. You read a lot of the bad reviews. People don't. I try to make a point now of going on to say the good stuff, to add that side as well.
Yeah. On a serious note, should we go to a joke now? This we've been very serious.
There was just one thing. There was one thing I was going to say, and I've totally forgot what it was as well. So let's go to a joke. It might come back to me.
We'll go to jokes. And while I'm doing that, yeah, you can. Let's see.
You can put your full screen. Oh no, we only. There we go. All right.
Okay.
What's that top one?
Oh, I'll go into that one in a minute. Okay. I can't reach it. I'm too short.
Oh, careful. Marriage is like a deck of cards. In the beginning, all you need is 2 hearts and a diamond. By the end, you wish you had a club and a spade. That's a good one. My people skills are just fine. It's my tolerance for idiots that need work.
And last one.
I'm sorry I hurt your feelings when I called you stupid. I thought you already knew. Oh, what's the cat one? It's the cat's house. We just paid the mortgage. That's true. We have 2 cats. That's true. They own this place.
This one's a bit rude, but why not? Seeing we're doing
I'm
it.
trying to see it from your point of view, but I can't get my head that far up my ass. Yeah. I might change careers and write these for a living. You know?
Please do, because I was second. Got to take it back around the other way. Yeah, please do, because you know, I've had some of these years, but they still make me at least smile. Sometimes even laugh out loud. You know, it's like, you know, the reason we put them in today's session is we said there's a lot of serious stuff going on out there. This is a chance for people to take their minds off it. Hopefully, find something of interest in the conversation. But you know, if any of those made anyone even chuckle, then I think that's what we all need at the moment.
I mean, people come here to talk about gear. Obviously, that can get very involved. I think people are okay with that because, like me, I'm a fan. I like talking about it. I could talk to you. I could talk to you for hours just about copyright, just about companies, just about business, just about, you know, I could talk to you about power supplies for an hour. So I think that's okay. But I like, you're the first guest that's brought the comedy element to the show, and I really appreciate that. And now I'm thinking I should do more of that. Like with Henning, I was going to do a quick fire round at the end and put some funny questions in there. So that could be a good idea. David says he's got 3 mission pedals, spring loaded for my AX8. I retired it myself to work with the Helix. So he's got Helix now. I actually had 4, sold the proprietary one. Have the Kemper model. He's got a Kemper.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry, just to cut in. Yeah, if you've got the skills, the nice thing about our pedals is they are pretty simple. They're just high quality components. So that's why they're expensive. And we buy them in smaller numbers. If you've got the skills, I mean, most of the time, wiring a pedal from a TRS to TS, it's just a question of connecting a couple of terminals with some solder, and you can. I mean, David would explain it far better than I, because I don't build the pedals; I just check them. So yeah, I mean, don't do it maybe in warranty because you might invalidate your warranty. But yeah, why not? If you've got a pedal and it's out of warranty, maybe even ask us to rewire it for you for $30.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, sorry, it's a good point. You can rewire the pedals if you have the skill.
And I didn't know that 3 people check the pedal, because there's nothing worse than getting a pedal and it doesn't work. You know, those little things are the things you pay for, right? Build quality, all that stuff.
Interesting or not, I'm going to say it anyway. That has done all our advertising for us. We still don't have an advertising budget.
Oh, wow.
We can't afford to advertise in newspapers, magazines, any of that. We only made a profit last year for the first time. Maybe this year we'll do adverts. I don't know. Got to decide where to spend this money now. We might not have the money, right, because what's going on, because we're seeing orders slowly dropping off. So that's quite ironic, right? We make a profit last year, and maybe this year we won't. Anyway, all that aside, the reason that we have done as well as we have is because of that. When we started, James and I had a conversation saying we'd all been on the receiving end of trying to, you know, decide what piece of gear we want to buy, agonizing over this brand versus that brand, that piece of gear over this gear, spending the money, turns up, plug it in, and we've all been on the receiving end of, well, what the hell's wrong with it? It doesn't work. So right from day one, the only mission statement, if you excuse the pun, that we had was to, as best as possible, make sure it works straight from the box, to not repeat the experiences that we'd had with other people's gear. And to some extent, we've achieved that. We've had something like, I've lost track of the number, but it's only in the hundreds, 300 maybe pedals back in 10 years, from over 100,000, 150,000 pedals sold. The fail rate is like 0.00000 whatever. Now, that doesn't mean to say a pedal won't fail, because we can't ever guarantee that it'll never fail, because components
It could fail in shipping,
do everything
right?
we can. And shipping, thrown about, misused. So we do everything we possibly can to avoid that horrible situation where you unwrap it, plug it in, it doesn't work. Right. But we can't eradicate it, but we get as close as we can. That's why there's 3 checks.
Alex has said, have you mentioned the Rewire Pro? What's that?
No. So again, these are all products that I wish I had more time to talk to people about. I'm talking about dealers, really, because they're the ones that do our promotion for us. That's why we have 98% of our, more than that, 99% of our sales goes through dealers. So the Rewire Pro is actually quite, thanks Alex for raising it. I think, and it's not just me saying this, is the best sounding wire pedal you will ever hear.
Wow.
And the reason for that, and that's a huge statement to make.
I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this pedal.
Right. So first of all, inside the rewa, there's an enormous inductor. Inductors are normally the size of a smaller than a 10 pence piece if you're in the UK, smaller than a 25 cents. Well, it's difficult to explain, but they're small. And the inductor is the bit that makes the wah sound. In the rewa, it's twice the size of a regular inductor. That's important because the range from the terrible wah sound, right, is extended if you want it to. But it also means you can do things like use it as a tone control. You can just leave the pedal in any position and use it as a tone control. There is nowhere in that suite that is ear piercing or just grating or like, oh my God, I can't stand it. But here's where it gets very clever. So the reason it's called rewire is James and I very cleverly early on decided because you rewire the guitar signal going into the wah pedal. So when it's a wah pedal and you rewire it, so let's call it the rewire. So basically there's 4 dip switches inside that give you 16 different wah sounds. But it's not just through EQ, it literally diverts the guitar sounds through different components on a board. So you click one switch and it puts it through, you know, a capacitor or this or whatever. James would explain it way better than me. And now it sounds more nasally. You click a switch the opposite way and it has more of a bass end to it. You click second switch up and now it sounds more like a vintage wah. You click this one down and now so you basically play around with the 4 switches until it sounds good with your rig, because everyone's rig's different, right? They all have their own tonal characters, all the way from the pickups you choose through to the amp it finally comes out of, speakers it comes out of. So the idea of the rewire is, well, you can't possibly own, well, some people do, 3, 4, 5 different wah pedals and have to keep plugging in and out for different songs in your set. Why don't we build a pedal where you can
I love the colour. Love the colour.
I'll tell you, that's called Candy Purple, and it's Alex's favourite colour. I'm probably going to try and do him an EP25K Pro in that colour for him. He can have to speak to me afterwards. That's another story. But here's an interesting story about that. So it's one of the first pedals that James developed after we got expression pedals. And this is when Guitar Player magazine still had a physical office. And we drove down there with it. We saw Art Thompson and, it doesn't matter, Barry Cleveland. 3 of their main reviewers met us at the front door and they said, right guys, what have you got for us? And James pulls this thing out and they loved the look of the colour, like you said. And what is it? Well, it's a wah pedal. And they went, really? Does the world need another wah pedal? And James and I's jaws were like on the floor. It's like, shit, we just spent 12, 18 months developing this thing. Oh crap. They said, well, you're here now, come in. And they took us into their live room, like a kid in a can. You can imagine a piece of gear, it was in there. Every type of amp and pedal, and I say they all work from home now, but so this was years back. They plugged this thing in. After 30 seconds or so of playing, I can't remember which one it was, stopped, he went, all right, I take it back, this thing sounds amazing. Wow. Here, you try it. We made front cover of their magazine off the back of it, and we don't advertise with them. So we didn't buy that front cover. We earned that front cover off the back of how good it sounds.
I'm kind of blown away actually, because I spend all day on Facebook and YouTube, and I thought I knew all the most of the pedals, and we're friends. And you've got stuff here I didn't even know existed.
Because I'm too busy talking about the things that I think will appeal to a bigger market, which means we can finally make a profit, like we did last year, and continue to make a profit. But yeah, we're actually please people look into it, because we might stop making it.
Oh.
Because we're struggling to justify keeping all the expensive components on the shelf and only selling.
You heard it here. Limited edition pedal. Get it while you can.
It may well be. It may well.
That's not a volume. That's not a volume as well, right? That's just a wah.
No, just a wah pedal. But honestly, it cuts through. You can add in distortions and stuff. It will still cut through the mix. We've had people like Steve Stevens, Billy Idol say best wah pedal he's ever heard. Yeah, check it out, people.
I'm gonna watch those demos after the show. That's really interesting. That's great. And again, we could talk about the products all day long. How many SKUs do you have right now? How many products are around right now?
30 to 40.
Wow. Tell me about. I see you're very active, like me. You're very active on the Facebook groups. How do you think YouTube and Facebook has affected your company? Is that the reason you're turning a profit now, do you think, because you're so active online?
Definitely part of it. The problem is you can't measure these things, right? Google Analytics and some very clever software out there, you can track things back, right, from where it started. But a lot of the people that, if they in any way at all respond to something I say or post online, firstly, thank you. No matter where you buy the Mission product from, thank you. But more often than not, because we know that 99+% of our sales come through dealers, they don't come and buy it direct from Mission, even though it means we'd make more money, because obviously we don't have to pay the dealer their commission, but we wouldn't have it any other way because the dealers have helped us grow to where we are. But they go to the dealer. So we have no way of tracking if I post something on Facebook, whether it really has an effect, other than if we suddenly get a bump in orders from dealers for a specific SKU that maybe in the last 2 weeks I've talked about. And then we kind of scratch our chins and our heads and kind of go, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think maybe that had something to do with it. But there's no way, to be honest, to answer that question for sure. I believe it does, which is why I do it. I'm on there for 2 reasons: to support people with questions that they want to ask. Don't get many of those, but I'm more than happy to ask questions. And of course, because we don't have a promotional budget of any kind, promote the company, what we stand for, what's important to us, quality, all those things that Mission stand for. And it's a very, very important platform for us as a small company, indeed. And I would say I'm certain it has some effect on our sales, and I'm pretty certain it has quite a big effect on our sales. And I thank anyone that's bought a Mission product because of something they've seen on Facebook. I appreciate that.
It has to make a difference. So you're getting massive exposure. I mean, this is interesting. So I asked you before about the music streaming thing, and looking back with hindsight, it'd be interesting in 10 years' time to see what we would say about online advertising and YouTube and Facebook, wouldn't it?
Yeah, although it's slightly different, but yes, it will be interesting to see how this all translates.
Technology. Do you guys have a YouTube channel, and do you have demos of each product, or do you have third parties do the demos?
Yeah, so we're a combination of it. We have some trusted sources that we like to send out new gear to for testing. They quite often in return will do a video for us, and then we'll use that either on our YouTube channel, as I said before, it's James's channel, or on our official. We send out blogs and things like that. Would include it in the blogs. We totally understand the importance of it, but again, it comes back to size. So, for example, myself, I do artist relations, dealer relations, social media. I check every pedal and every product before it leaves the store. I go over to some of our component vendors and go pick those components up every week. Take the truck, load it up, bring them back, unload them. I wear so many hats, and I'm not alone. James is the same, Amanda's the same. All the guys, the way we work is everyone chips in. So if amps need to go out the door, then people help out on the amps. If pedals need to go out the door, people stop what they're doing, they help do the pedals. Everyone kind of just works out where the demand is for that week's production, and they all kind of chip in as a team to help each other out. Amazing bunch of people we have working for us, and I can't thank them enough either for just how much they care about doing a good job and helping each other out as a team. So it's just time. If I had more time, I'd do more social media. If I had more time, I'd do more videos. James actually recently quit his job. He was working full-time at Dell. So he was doing all these product designs and everything else around his full-time job at Dell and Intel before that. He's now finally full-time at Mission because it can start to pay him something. Not a lot, but something. And so now he's having more time to do videos. You probably noticed there's been an increase in the frequency of our blogs. I encourage anyone to check those out. If you go to missionengineering.com, go to one of the tabs and look at a blog, effects blog, I think it's called. Because of all this experience, there are a huge number of topics from why do you get mains hum? How do you avoid mains hum? Through to the one I spread this morning on Facebook group about understanding different ways of powering your pedals through daisy chaining, how you can increase from 9 to 18 volts, what are the issues with it, how does it really work. He's now prolifically doing pretty much one a week on those, on topics that most guitarists would probably find interesting. And it's all free. Just go to missionengineer.com and go down to effects block, click on it, and there's a whole history of different topics he's covered on subjects that people would probably find useful.
Again, I didn't know about that because I just had a thing where going 4K method with my amp, I felt like it changed the tone, and someone said it's because it's like a buffer. So that stuff isn't that interesting to everyone, but when you have a problem, then you need that information, and it's good to know you have those. I didn't know you had a blog either, so I've learned so much about you guys today. It's been really great.
So if people subscribe, again, seeing, part of the reason being on here is to help the company. If people subscribe, firstly, any new products that come out, you're going to be the first to know. Secondly, things like the blogs we send to you. We don't spam people with tons of advertising for products and stuff. That almost never happens. Most of it is, here's a new product, or here's a coupon we're doing for our subscribers. And that happens pretty much only once a year anyway. But you get the gist of it. When people subscribe, it's well worth doing because you get to find about the new products first, anything that's going on, the blogs, all those kinds of things. We send out. In fairness, the blogs now are being sent out once a week, so that's way more frequency than once every 3 months. It was when James was working a full-time job. For some people, that might be too much, but you don't have to open it, right? If you don't like the title, you look at it and go, it doesn't really interest me. Don't watch it. Don't read it, should I say. Quite often there's videos attached to the blogs as well. But please subscribe to missionengineering.com and hopefully you'll get some benefits.
That's great. On that note, I'll say subscribe to their blog, subscribe to Mission's channel, James's channel, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your time. It's been really useful. If everyone has no last questions, I'm going to start wrapping it up. Thank you, David, for watching. Really great to see you on here again. Thank you, everyone. We had a good crowd in here, some good questions, some really positive comments about your company and what and with what I'm doing as well. So that's all very positive today. It's been great. Thank you for your time. And also, if you have any new products come out and you want to just come and do like a 30-minute informal chat like this and just talk about it, that could be cool too. So I'll extend that to you guys as well. I would enjoy that.
I'd love to.
So stick around. I'll say goodbye off air. But to leave the chat, I'm going to ask you to pan over to one more funny quote before I log off.
Do I have one? Hold on a second.
If not, you have to make one up.
No, I do. I have another one. Here you go.
Here we go. I'm going to put you on full screen. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'll see you next time. Be well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.